Welcome to DMod Garage. We are working on the 57 Beetle Ophelia for my wife, and in the last episode we were playing around with the chassis, getting it painted in the KBS. We had a few little issues, and I'm going to show you. KBS is a very strange paint to spray, and you've got to have the humidity right, the temperature right. The surface cannot have Prepsol on there or any foreign matter like that, otherwise you'll just get all sorts of issues. Anyway, what happened? Let's come and have a look. I painted it, and unfortunately it was a little bit too hot and the humidity wasn't quite right, so we ended up getting a lot of bubbles. And you can see, if you look carefully here, most of it was actually perfect, but we did get one spot here that went a bit funny and another spot just there. Now, in the scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. This is all going to be covered in sound deadener. The underneath of it's actually quite good, but I did have to go and sand it all back and recoat it again and not spray it. I actually ended up using a foam roller. You can see here it's still stuck to the container, but that worked better than actually putting it through a spray gun and spraying it, because I just started getting a lot of little pinholes everywhere. And you might have picked that up in the first video when I sprayed it, but you know, after sanding it back with about a 320 grit, I went back over it with the roller, and I did end up getting a better finish on it. But yeah, it's definitely not the same as using a 2-pack black paint. The polyurethane is so much stronger, and as an encapsulated paint, it'll make the chassis last 100 years. I'd say this thing will never rust. It's got so many coats on it. So anyway, that was the KBS done. We're going to continue today putting some parts onto it. Let's get cracking and see how we go. Okay, so one of the first things we're going to do, the shift rod, you can see here, is rather manky and needs a good clean up. We'll go and put that on the Y wheel. We do have a new bushing here. New bushing to put in it. That's going to be fun, threading it inside this little hole in here, but we'll get there. Righto, let's take this over to the Y wheel and we'll clean up the rod. All right, we'll go and give this clean with some Prepsol and give it a paint. Now, note that I didn't paint it over where it's going to be shifting, because this is the part it'll be wearing up and down, so we didn't want to have paint gumming up inside it. Now, interesting fact with the oval beetles, up to 57 and then 58 they changed. Inside in here, which is the little circular carrier that the shift rod moves in and out, they don't actually have a bush on them. So I had ordered a bush, I went to put it in, and of course the shift rod tube's way too thick, and inside the section in there is quite thick and it won't accept the bush at all. So they obviously didn't run a bush, so I'm just going to run it as it is. We'll see how much slop's in it. And if it's an issue, then we'll have to rectify it later. But it means you've got to basically cut this section out and weld in a new hanger, a later model one, which will accept the bush. So I don't really want to do that now, obviously, that I've painted it. So I'm just going to leave it for now and see how we go. I might even just design my own little acetyl plastic sleeve to go over this maybe and see if that needs it. I don't know. We won't know until we put the rod in. So, and in order to get the rod in, I've got to have it off the rotisserie, because this part here is actually blocking where the rod goes in anyway. So we'll do it. We'll do that at a later stage. For now, all I've been doing now is just going around all the threads with the tap, M8 and M10 1.5, and just drilling out or re-tapping all the threads. So there's quite a few in here that need to be done. These rear ones here, because, you know, they get even though I did have them plugged up, they were kind of gummed up anyway with a bit of rust in there, or sandblasting media or whatever. So these have all been done back here, and these ones, I'm going to get new bolts for these side cover plates for the torsion tubes. and those ones got those done as well. So yeah, just re-threaded everything. It just means later on when you go to put things back together, you know, things go in like this and you don't have to sit there and fight them. So that part's done. Okay, we'll keep moving on. Heater cable. This is the one I've purchased and hopefully it's the right length. We'll see. Pretty sure it should be. So basically these, we're going to put a little bit of grease on them just for the ease of putting them in, and out they go. That's the little, it's got a really coarse thread on that. Have a look at that, how it comes in and out. Obviously it just pulls the cables as you twist the handle. Righto, so we've pushed it in, taken out the little pin, and we're just going to loop that in and then shove the pin back in like that. And once it's gone through, which it has, put a little bit of grease around this guy, around the shaft. Should be able to push them through now. There we go. Done. And washer, and this is going to be our little pin once we get our handle, which I have to go and find. But for now, that'll do. Alright, job done. On to the next part. So a little more progress. We've been doing a bit of sandblasting. You can see I've got a few components. I've got all the pedal assembly done. I also finished off this section here and this one here. Now this was the one that had a lot of slop in it. Or I used a Red Bull can, and you know, you can use the aluminium just as a shim to put on the inside of the brass. You can't buy the bushes for the right-hand drive version, so hence why I just had to make it. Anyway, I got all the slop out of it, it's perfect. So we're going to powder coat all these parts, and the only one I'm not sure about is the accelerator pedal. It's got the little wheel, but it's got a bit of slop in it. You can see there it shakes around quite a lot, and obviously it's got a pin and it's been punched there, and I'm thinking, I don't know, this could just be an OCD thing, but I just don't like the fact that you've got play on that. So and that will transfer to your foot, so I'm thinking I might punch that out and see whether we can get rid of a bit of this slop, maybe put a bush in there or something. But anyway, this is all going to be powder coated. Now the rear transmission mount, you can see I have welded a extra piece right around it, because they're sort of known for bending in the middle. I don't know, this one was pretty bad. I had to straighten it out, but again, with the bigger motor, who knows? I think it's probably a good idea just to strengthen it. You can see on the inside, I've just stitch welded it all along, and from the outside, that's what you're going to see. So it won't look too bad. Anyway, we'll powder coat that too. Another part to get powder coated. The handbrake, I'm going to paint that in the same colour I did the seat frames, which was the River Rock, the Crichton colour. I think Chris Valone was actually off his YouTube channel. He had said that was a really close colour to the original, so that's what I went with. Thanks, Chris, for that bit of info. His YouTube channel is a wealth of knowledge too. He's been doing it a long time. So now, another little trick. If you want to clean a whole lot of nuts and bolts, this is what I do. I put them into the basket with some fly wire, and you can see, you just have to rotate them, you know, shake them and just sandblast them in here, and it just cleans everything up, you know, really nice. And you've got all brand new stuff. I like using the original V-dub bolts. I don't like to go and buy new stuff if you don't need to. You know, obviously if they're corroded, you'll get rid of them, but you can't beat German metal, so that's what we're doing. We're going to reuse all this stuff and go from there. So anyway, a little bit more progress. We're going to start setting up the powder coater, and we're going to do those assemblies over there. Okay, here's the next dilemma. I've just gone and mocked up the pedal assembly for now. Now, the problem is I have a size 11.5 foot. And I just have this issue that these are too close to each other, especially these ones. I mean, I don't know, I just can see myself putting my foot there and getting half on, and I don't know. So I'm thinking I'm going to heat this up here and bend this arm a little bit further away from the brake, and maybe even bend the brake over this way just to get it a little bit further away than from the accelerator. Because, yeah, I reckon that's just way too close together for my liking. Maybe for the wife it'll be okay, but, yeah, I mean, I've got to be able to drive it as well. So, yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. We're just going to heat this up just here and bend this arm a little bit further away and do the same on this one. So let's pull these arms off and see how we go.
A few moments later.
Okay, so after a little bit of heating with the blowtorch on the vise over there, I've managed to gain quite a bit of real estate. Now, what I did is I forgot to measure it while I was on camera, but we had about, I'd say we've got the distance between the two of them now is almost 60 mil between each pedal. And it was 45. So we've bent this piece here on both of them. So I just took that radius and bent it over further, and then bent the pedal top back so that it would be straight and wouldn't be cockeyed over. So yeah, we've just basically moved everything away from the accelerator. You can see now between the accelerator and the brake, it's a lot more room. It was just too close together. And I know with my big foot, I could be like that and almost touch the two together. So anyway, that's a good little improvement. You can just see it, and it's spaced quite nicely too. So I think that'll do. I don't think we need to take it over any further. So job done. All right, well, we're going to strip all this back now and get it ready for powder coating. So accelerator pedal, you can see here, there's the arm. I just used the die grinder to grind the back of the pin off. And here's the pin here. So you can see that was living in like that, and it was just pressed over. We'll just put a dollop of weld back on that once we put it back into position. So what I've done is I've wire wheeled, got all the corrosion that was off the shaft, but it did have a lot of play. Like the wheel was, rocking back and forth on the pedal. So now what I've done, again, the old Red Bull can, just chopped it with the scissors. And if you look inside, you can see I've just put a very, very small piece of that can in there, which has taken up the slop. And then now, if we put the pin in, like so, you'll see now it's a nice tight fit. We will just go and weld that back on there, and we should be good to go. So, yeah, put a little bit of grease inside it, and happy days. So here we go, that is done, and you can see I just put a little blob of weld behind it, but we're nice and still. There's got no, it spins, but there's no rattle in it. So yeah, we'll tape this part off. Obviously we're not going to powder coat that part, we'll just do the arm, and yeah, happy with that. Let's keep moving. Right, so we've done a little bit of plating. These some of these nuts and bolts here, we've got the plating Zinc tank set up at the moment, so we're just, you can see here, this is our cleaning solution, and we've got all our nuts and bolts ready to go into the tank. These ones are almost ready. Yeah, not quite, a little bit longer to go. We're running 0.1.7 amps, or 1.7 amps I should say, current. The tank's 30 degrees Celsius. About 40 minutes of plating time. So yeah, we just wanted to use a lot of the original nuts and bolts. These ones here I haven't cleaned up yet, but I just, I'd rather use original stuff on here. So all right, we'll keep going. Okay, so these are the door stoppers, and as you can see, they come up pretty nice. That's all zinc plated, And what we're going to do, I'll show you what happens if you leave them in the gold solution for too long. Not that I really care about this, but have a look how brown those ones are. You can see the difference between that and that. So that's just if you leave it literally a minute more than these ones, they'll end up just turning brown. But yeah, you're not going to see them, so I don't care too much. Okay, so the next thing we've got to do is we're going to plate these parts. And they're obviously the bonnet latch. Now, the problem with this one is it's got grease and gunk inside the void, inside here where the mechanism is. So we're going to have to pull this apart because we cannot dip it in like that. Otherwise, it'll contaminate the bath and then we're in trouble. So I'm going to have to use a screwdriver and bend these 4 tabs. And then we can actually separate, clean the inside of them. Then we can wire wheel these because they have to be shiny. If you just go and put that in and plate it, it'll come out very dull. So the brass wire wheel shines up the metal. Then we can clean it and then we can pop it in and we should end up with a nice shiny part that's going to be brand new. Right, so let's pull this apart and see how we go. Okay, let's try and get this tabs apart so we can remove the parts for plating. Let's see how we go. That one's going to break. So we're going to lose one tab. We'll probably have to weld it back on, I think. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now let's see if we can remove the inner guts. We'll probably just place it in like this and we should be able to pry it out, hopefully. Alright, so the reason it's not coming apart, this is a stud or a retaining stud which goes right through and that's locking it into position. So I think we've got to remove that in order to get the plate off. So I'll just have to grind that little knob off the back and go from there. So, and that'll just have to be connected back on again once we get this thing back apart, back together. Oh, got it. So that's a little pin. Let's just come out. Keep that. Now this thing should, by rights now, fall apart. And it's going to. Yep, there we go. Now ooh, that's what I was afraid of. Don't go doing that. Oh yeah, okay, so that spring, I think we're good, we're good. Okay, here we go. So yeah, full of sand, full of gunk. That's fine. Pretty simple setup inside, as you can see there. So that spring obviously just goes into that tang there. You can see. And obviously that just moves and articulates up and down to lock your pin in. So easy. All right, well that's good that we've got it all apart. So we'll just take all the components out, re-sandblast everything again, and then start the wire brush to try and polish the metal up and then get it ready for plating.
A few moments later.
Okay, the plating continues. We've got a few more parts in here. These are the rear bolts for the gearbox mount. You can have a look here and have a sneak peek. Oh yes, very nice. That's getting done. We also have the CB Performance gearbox mount in its position. And we also have the pedals in their position as well, and the accelerator pedal. It always, I'm sure it weirds out all the dudes that have left-hand drive Beetles because everything's on the other side and the whole configuration's totally different to what we have here. But everything works very good. I've got everything hooked up inside, and we've also finished some more plating. You can see here, there's some of the pieces that we have done. I just did another wheel nut. Another VW wheel nut. Now this is the mechanism for the front bonnet. You can see there, and that's the other part that was all rusty. So yeah, they come up really good. So we'll assemble all that and re-grease the inside of it, and it will be all good to go. Also have the new master cylinder. I've painted that too. It always freaks me out that you buy those master cylinders and they're never painted. They're always raw metal and they just immediately rust. It's like you think they would just paint them before sending them out, and they're all the same. It's very strange. Also, we did some more powder coating. This is that component for the gearbox mount, and did the gloss black in that, and obviously the pedals, because they're done too. And that's got that little reinforced section that I welded on the bottom of it. You can almost not even tell. So that's done too. We've got the new mounts there to put on it. So slowly we're getting little bits and pieces done. Hopefully we'll be able to get this thing on its wheels very soon. The front beam, I don't know if you remember in the past, quite a few episodes, it's down in there. It is actually already painted. I've got the disc brakes already on it too. The only thing, I don't have some fulcrum plates for the axle, so I've got to try to get a set of them so I can get the rear end set up. Next thing will be is painting the steering box too. I restored that about 2 years ago. It does have new roller bearings in it, and it's like super tight, so I'm not sure. I don't think I'll powder coat it because it's obviously got oil and everything on it, so we'll probably just KBS that, I think. Anyway, I reckon that'll do it, guys, for this episode. It's not an exciting one, but it's one of those things you've got to get done. You've got to move along with the chassis and get it built, and then I can probably stick it up on the hoist up there, put it up in the air, and then bring the body and start working on the body. Now, update with the single cab barn door ute. We're getting the paint sorted at the moment, so I've had issues just trying to get the code sorted for the colour choices. We're doing barn door original colours. But yeah, just having a little bit of difficulty getting them sorted. So once I've got the paint here, we're going to pretty much spray the bed in here, and then we can start continuing with the ribs and just getting the last section of it done. Remember, the chassis is painted underneath, so it's really going to be inside the cab and all that. So updates coming soon. All right, guys, we'll see you in another episode. Thanks again for the new subscribers.